They found her in a taped-up box labeled, "Don't want her," broken, bleeding, and barely alive. But what this wounded German Shepherd puppy did next, how she fought to live, to trust, and to love again, will break your heart and heal it all at once. This is the story of hope. And if you believe that every broken soul deserves a second chance, then please subscribe to this channel. Because here, every story isn't just a video, it's a heartbeat. I'll never forget the first time I saw her. It was raining, the kind of cold, spiteful drizzle that soaked through your coat and into your bones. I was doing my routine sweep behind the back lot of the Brave Rescue Shelter in Bakersfield. Broken crates, old towels, trash no one claimed. But that morning, I saw something that made me stop mid-step. A cardboard box, wet, caving on one side, with 3 words scrawled across the top in bold, red marker. Don't want her. I stared at it. Not because it was unusual, we get surrenders all the time, but because this one wasn't left at our door. This box had been dumped by the dumpster. The moment I stepped closer, I felt it, a pulse in the air. The kind that grabs your gut before your brain catches up. I kneeled slowly and peeled back the lid, and there she was, curled into herself like a wilted flower. Matted fur soaked in rain. One leg twisted awkwardly under her belly, her ribs poking through a muddy, paper-thin coat. She didn't lift her head. She didn't whimper. She just blinked. And in that single, shattered gaze, I saw everything. Fear, hunger, a betrayal so deep it had stopped even the crying. I whispered, "Hey, little one." She flinched. I tried again. Softer, lower. The way you talk to a frightened child hiding in a closet. Her eyes followed the sound. Not me, just the sound. Then I saw it, a streak of dry blood along her back leg, and something protruding near the hip. A fracture, maybe worse. I pulled off my jacket and gently wrapped her, careful not to move her leg. She didn't fight. She didn't even react. She just went limp, as if bracing for the next bad thing. The vet on call was Grace, thank God. She met me at the intake table without needing to ask anything. One look, and she was barking orders to prep the emergency room. "She's 3 months old, tops," Grace said, examining her with a trembling hand. "Left hip's dislocated. Puncture wound near the flank. Infection setting in. Multiple signs of neglect." Her voice caught. "She hasn't just been hurt, John, she's been discarded. We named her Hope. Ironic, maybe, but when a creature still breathes after being thrown away, it's not irony. It's defiance." Hope didn't move for 2 days. She lay in the corner of the observation room, eyes open, body still. We kept her on fluids and antibiotics. I sat beside her every hour I could, just reading out loud from a book I found in the shelter's lost and found bin. The Little Prince. Not because I thought she understood, but because silence felt crueler. On day 3, she licked water from the bowl on her own. On day 4, she lifted her head when I entered the room. On day 5, she growled. Not a bark, not a snarl, just a deep, raw sound from somewhere buried beneath all the pain. I paused, unsure what triggered it, then I realized. I had walked in holding a towel. She thought I was going to throw it over her. Break me. That moment broke me. By the end of the first week, her fever had gone down. Grace reset the hip and cleaned the wound. The infection was receding. But the wounds inside, those would take longer. Hope wouldn't let anyone touch her but me, and even then, only when I didn't look her in the eye. I learned her boundaries. I earned each inch. I sat with my back turned to her at first, then moved closer, inch by inch. One day, she placed her paw, trembling, on the side of my boot. That was the first time she initiated contact. I didn't move for 10 minutes. Didn't speak. Didn't breathe loud. Because I knew, for her, that wasn't affection. It was a test. Do I trust again? Do I dare? Every dog we rescue gets a file. Medical records. Intake notes. Progress logs. But for Hope, I kept a journal. Not official. Just something I did on my own. Day 7. Ate chicken from hand. No eye contact. Flinched when fridge door opened. Day 9. Slept without trembling. Whimpered once. No aggression. Day 11. Nudged toy once. Did not engage. Still won't respond to name. Day 12. Licked my hand. Just once. I wrote that one in capital letters. She began to walk again by week 2, limping but steady. The dislocated hip had been set properly, and the muscle was beginning to rebuild. Grace said she was a fighter. I said she was a survivor. There's a difference. Fighters lash out. Survivors wait. Endure. Then, somehow, they begin again. And hope? She was beginning. That's when the call came. A young couple. Local. Heard about her story from one of our volunteers. They wanted to meet her. So they'd recently lost a dog to cancer and saw something in Hope's eyes they couldn't explain. She just looked like she needed to be chosen. I stared at the phone long after they hung up. Because deep down, I knew they were right. But I also knew something else. She had already been chosen. By me. And that's where everything got complicated. They came on a Thursday. Emma and Kyle. Mid-30s, no kids. She wore a knitted sweater with a paw print stitched on the sleeve. He brought a blanket folded under his arm, the kind of thing people do when they're serious. Prepared. Earnest. They weren't just visiting. They were hoping. I stood with them behind the glass partition that looked into recovery room 2. Hope was curled on the mat near the far wall, resting her head on her front paws, her ears twitching at every distant sound. She looked like a dog still caught between the instinct to run and the exhaustion of having nowhere left to go. She's smaller than I imagined, Emma whispered, her voice catching. She was barely alive when we found her, I said quietly. And still she's here. Kyle's eyes stayed fixed on her. You weren't kidding. She doesn't move unless she wants to. No, I said, smiling faintly. She doesn't. May we? Emma looked toward the door. I hesitated. Hope had made so much progress. She'd stopped growling, started eating in front of me, trusted me enough to brush her gently along the shoulder. But strangers? That was another world. She might not come close, I warned. We don't need her to, Emma replied, holding that blanket to her chest like armor. We just want her to know not everyone walks away. I let them in. Hope looked up immediately, not panicked but alert. Her body stiffened, head low. Her eyes locked onto Kyle's shoes. Then Emma's scarf. Then the door behind them. Escape. Always checking for escape. Emma sat down cross-legged on the far side of the room and placed a blanket in front of her. Kyle followed her lead. They didn't speak. They didn't reach out. Smart people. They just waited. And that silence, that quiet, open space, is what finally drew Hope's attention. She sniffed the air. Didn't move. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I watched from outside, breath held. And then she stood. Limping, cautious, ears back, but upright. Hope took 3 steps forward. Then stopped. Emma didn't move. Another step. A pause. 2 more. Closer now. Hope lowered her nose to the edge of the blanket. She sniffed, then nudged it, then retreated again, but only a foot. Emma whispered something I couldn't hear. A tremor moved through her shoulders. Hope sat, not relaxed, not trusting, but curious. And in Hope's world, curiosity was everything. After they left, I found myself alone in the break room, staring into a paper cup of coffee I hadn't touched. She liked them. I saw it. That moment on the blanket wasn't fear. It was recognition. But recognition isn't the same as belonging. And for the first time in months, I wasn't sure where I stood in her world anymore. I stayed late that night. The shelter was quiet. Lights dimmed. I unlocked her recovery door and stepped inside. Hope looked up from her bed, the small one with the fleece lining she'd started to favor. I sat on the floor across from her, same as always. No sudden moves. No words. She limped over after a moment and placed her chin on my knee. I froze. That was new. For weeks, I'd been the calm voice, the silent shadow, the steady warmth she didn't run from. But now she was coming to me, choosing me. I let my hand hover near her cheek, and slowly she leaned in. And there was again the test. Do I dare? Do I try? And that time, I think we both whispered yes. The next morning, Grace found me asleep against the wall with Hope curled beside me. She didn't say anything. She just nodded and left an extra coffee on the floor by my foot. Over the next 3 days, Emma and Kyle visited again. Each time, Hope came a little closer, sniffed their hands, took treats from Kyle's palm. Emma brought a new blanket each time, leaving it in the corner of the room. Hope began to rest there after they left, like their scent was becoming part of her space. On the third visit, Hope placed a paw on Emma's lap, the same way she had done to me. That did something to me I didn't expect. It hurt. It shouldn't have, but it did. I went back to the intake office after they left, sat down at my desk, and stared at her folder. I flipped it open. Her name, Hope. Intake status, critical. Current status, stable/healing. Adoption interest, pending. I closed the folder and pressed my thumb to the words I'd written just days ago. Licked hand. God, it had felt like a miracle. And now, she was licking someone else's. I hated myself for thinking it, but I did. Grace pulled me aside that afternoon. She always knew when something was off. You're too close, she said. I know. She's getting better. I know. They're good people. I nodded. You don't want to let her go, do you? I shook my head. She put a hand on my shoulder. Maybe she's not the only one healing. That night, I sat with Hope longer than usual. She curled beside me, breathing slow and steady, her body no longer trembling in sleep. I looked down at her, this small, broken creature who'd once been left in a soggy cardboard box with 3 words written like a curse. Don't want her, but she was wanted now. So badly wanted it hurt. And the person she trusted most might have to be the one to let her go. I whispered to her, if they take you home, will you miss me? She didn't move. I smiled to myself. I think I'll miss you more. Saturday came with that golden kind of morning light, the soft kind that trickles through the windows like it's trying not to wake anyone too harshly. The kind of light that makes you think maybe today's the day something good happens. But I wasn't sure I was ready for something good. I sat outside Hope's recovery room with a clipboard in my lap I hadn't written on. She was inside, curled near the blanket Emma had left the day before. Her head perked up as I passed by the window. She still looked for me, still waited. But I also knew, so did they. Emma had called earlier in the morning. We've talked about it, John, she'd said. Her voice soft but steady. We're ready. We want to bring her home. We know she's not perfect. We don't care. We love her already. I told her I'd call back. But I hadn't yet. I sat there, fingers tight on the pen, heart loose in my chest. Hope had become more than just a recovery case. She wasn't just a dog I'd helped through trauma. She was my something, my reason for getting up early, my reminder that not all pain stays pain forever. Letting her go, it felt like losing the only part of me I'd managed to fix. Grace sat beside me around noon. No words at first, just silence. The kind of quiet that people who know you really well give you when they understand your war isn't one they can fight. After a while, she reached for the clipboard, flipped it over, and said, "Let me show you something." She pulled a photo out of her pocket and placed it on the table. A German shepherd with cloudy eyes sat beside a little girl in a wheelchair. The girl was laughing, the kind that makes her whole body bounce. That was Mikey, Grace said. 6 years ago. Someone left him tied to a fence with a note that said, "He bites." I looked at the photo again. That old dog wasn't biting anything. He looked like he was guarding that child's soul. They adopted him the day before he was scheduled to be put down, Grace continued. He passed 2 years ago, but I still get a Christmas card with his paw print stamped on it. I stared at the picture for a long time. Then back at the window. Hope was awake now, eyes on the door. Like she could feel it, the decision rising in the air like a storm front. Grace placed a hand over mine. You saved her. That will never stop being true. But now maybe you have to let her save someone else. I called Emma. They were at the shelter an hour later. We didn't make a big deal out of it. There wasn't a ribbon. No balloons. No adoption day, hats, or Instagram photos. Just a quiet room, a folded blanket, and a moment that felt like an ending I hadn't rehearsed for. I opened the door, and Hope immediately walked toward me, limping still, but without hesitation. Her tail moved gently, side to side, just enough to say, "You're still my person." Emma and Kyle waited on the far side, kneeling low, just as they had before. Hope looked at them, then looked back at me. Then she did something that broke me completely. She turned around and pressed her face into my chest, buried herself there like she was memorizing my scent. I dropped to my knees and wrapped my arms around her, and I let myself cry. For the first time since this all began. I cried in her fur, whispered thank you, told her she was brave, told her I loved her, told her she was everything I never knew I needed. And then she walked away, toward them, tail still moving, head high, ears forward. And I knew what that meant. She was choosing them, not because she didn't love me, but because she trusted me enough to believe that whatever was next would be okay. We finalized the paperwork in my office. Emma signed slowly, like every signature came with weight. Kyle reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something that made me laugh through the ache in my chest, a dog tag already engraved. Hope, beloved. I took it in my hand. It was warm, new, heavy in a different kind of way. Do I get visiting rights? I asked, half joking. Emma touched my hand. Anytime. Your family. I watched them leave through the front gate. Hope walked between them, her leash slack, her steps uneven but certain. She didn't look back, and I was glad she didn't, because if she had, I might have run after her. That night, the shelter felt hollow, empty in the places I didn't know she had filled. I went back into her recovery room, sat in the corner where I always did. Her blanket was gone, the air felt still, but her scent lingered like a ghost that didn't want to leave too fast. I closed my eyes, and in the dark I whispered, "Be happy, baby girl. Please be happy." 3 days later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a photo. Hope, sleeping on a couch, curled beside Emma's legs. She was wearing the tag. Hope, beloved. Beneath the photo, one line. She still waits by the door around 7 p.m. I think she misses your good nights. I stared at the photo for a long time, then wrote back, I do too. I didn't go into Hope's room the next night. There was no reason to. The blanket was gone. The smell of her was fading. The walls that once felt warm from her presence were cold again, like the first day she arrived. But the silence, that didn't fade. It just got louder. Grace noticed it first. "You're not sleeping," she said one morning as we crossed paths in the hallway. "I'm fine," I lied. "You're talking to the empty room like she's still in there." I didn't answer that, because she wasn't wrong. I had caught myself twice already, crouched in that corner, whispering out loud, "You're safe now. You're a good girl. It's okay, baby, you can sleep." The same things I used to tell her when she couldn't stop shaking. But now I was saying them to an empty wall. On Friday, I came into the shelter early, earlier than usual, before sunrise. And as I unlocked the main doors, I felt it again, that hollow ache. Like I had lost something without knowing what to do with the space it left behind. She wasn't just a rescue dog. She had become my rhythm, my reminder that pain, when met with patience, could turn into something sacred. But now my hands felt useless again. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I worked. I scrubbed kennels, sorted medicine, rechecked every intake form. I stayed busy. I kept my body moving because if I stopped, even for a second, I knew the grief would catch me. But it did anyway. Around 3 p.m., I found myself staring at the box, the one she was found in. It had been placed near the back shed. We hadn't thrown it out yet. No one had the heart. It still had the tape on the edges, the water stains, the crushed corner, and the words. Those 3 words. Don't want her. I sat down beside it and ran my fingers along the cardboard. And then I did something I didn't expect. I got angry, really angry, at whoever left her there, at whatever kind of person could write something like that and walk away, at the world for letting it happen, at myself for letting her go. My fists curled tight. I wanted to scream, punch something, break the silence that had taken her place. But instead, I just said it out loud. Not a whisper, not a murmur, a full voice. Sharp, shaking. You were wanted. The sound echoed. Off the walls, through the rafters, out the doors. I said it again and again, until the tears came, until my voice broke. That night, I didn't stay late. I couldn't. I drove home, parked outside my apartment, and sat in the car with the engine off. 10 minutes, then 20, then an hour. I didn't go inside, because inside was worse. Inside was where she wasn't, where her memory hung like pictures I hadn't framed yet. Instead, I pulled out my phone, scrolled through photos I'd taken without even realizing it. Hope curled up in my lap. Hope chewing the corner of toy I swore she'd never want. Hope asleep on the exam table after surgery, tongue sticking out like she trusted the world again. And then, the last one. Hope walking away, between Emma and Kyle. Tail up, body strong, like she finally believed she belonged to someone. At 2 a.m., I got another text. This time, it was a video. The camera was shaky at first, but then it settled. Emma stood at the door, phone in hand, whispering, "Hope." "Who's here?" Hope lifted her head from the couch. Ears perked. And then she ran. Full speed. To the door. Tail wagging like she'd just heard my voice. Emma laughed. "She still thinks you're coming, every time someone knocks." Beneath the video was one line. "You broke her." But in the best way. The next day, I sent something. Not big. Just a small package. Inside, her favorite toy from the shelter. The one she tried to hide under her blanket. And a note. For Hope, to remind her I never stopped wanting her. I didn't expect a reply. But I got one anyway. 3 days later, they came back. I wasn't on shift. I was in the back, replacing ceiling tiles in the supply closet when Grace walked in. "There's someone here to see you," she said, grinning like she already knew the punchline. I stepped into the hallway and froze. Hope, standing there. Same uneven walk. Same eyes. Same soul. She didn't bark. She didn't cry. She just walked up and leaned against my leg, like I was still hers. I dropped down, and this time I didn't hold back. I hugged her like I was holding the last part of myself together. She didn't push away, didn't move, just stood there, letting me fall apart against her shoulder. And that's when I realized she hadn't stopped being mine. She was just more now. Mine and theirs. Rescued and home. Hope and hopeful. Emma placed a hand on my back. "She still gets nightmares sometimes," she whispered. "But we're learning how to be soft with her." I nodded, wiping my face with my sleeve. She used to flinch when we opened drawers. Now, she waits to see if it's a treat. Kyle smiled. "She knows she's safe." "That's because of you." Hope licked my hand gently. And I knew then, I hadn't lost her. I had simply passed her to the next part of her healing. That night, after they left again, I walked through the shelter differently. Slower, calmer. And for the first time in weeks, the silence didn't hurt. It felt full. Full of what she left behind. Full of what she had taught me. Full of the truth I had almost forgotten. That love doesn't disappear when it leaves. It just changes addresses. A month passed. Then 2. And the ache in my chest finally learned how to rest. It didn't vanish, but it settled into something gentler. Something like peace. Every once in a while, I'd get an update. A short message from Emma. A quick photo. A blurry video of Hope doing something ordinary, like laying on her back with her legs in the air, or falling asleep with her head on Kyle's chest. And every time, I'd save them. Not because I missed her, but because she had become a reminder that healing was real, and that sometimes it sticks. One Thursday morning, a small envelope came in the mail. No stamp, no return address, just my name in soft handwriting. Inside was a drawing. Crayon. Child's hand. A picture of a big-eared German shepherd sitting under a rainbow. Beside her, a man with messy hair and a beard, smiling. The sun in the corner had a face. Underneath, in purple marker, Mr. John and Hope, the dog who lived. I don't know why that broke me. Maybe because someone out there had seen her scars and decided they didn't define her. Maybe because that sentence, the dog who lived, held more truth than any report or intake form ever could. Because she had lived, in every sense of the word. Not just survived, lived. She was the dog they threw away. The one someone decided wasn't worth keeping. The one they didn't want. And yet, she had become someone's whole world. One evening, I sat down to write her story. Not for a blog, not for the shelter's page, just for myself. And maybe for the next dog who came in too broken to look me in the eye. I started with the box. That damp, crumpled box. The one with the 3 words scrawled in permanent marker. Don't want her. And then I let the pen keep going. I wrote about the first time she wagged her tail. The first time she let me touch her paw. The sound she made when she dreamed, soft, like she was running in a field too big for her tiny legs. I wrote about her surgeries. The way she fought through the pain without ever knowing what brave meant. I wrote about the day she left, and the hole she left behind. And then I ended it with one sentence. Her name was Hope, and she gave it back to me. 3 months after her adoption, Emma and Kyle brought her back one last time. Not because anything was wrong. They just wanted me to see her. Really see her. She ran across the parking lot like she owned the earth beneath her paws. No limp, no fear. She barked when she saw me, loud, proud, joyful. And when she reached me, she tackled my legs with a force that almost knocked me flat. Someone's been eating well. I laughed, scratching her behind the ears. She sleeps in our bed now, Kyle said. Pillow under her head and everything. Emma nodded. She's still scared of fireworks, though. But she comes to us now. She doesn't hide anymore. Hope licked my face, and for a second, time folded in on itself. I saw the box, the blood, the words. And then, I saw the girl in front of me now. Alive. Unapologetically alive. Grace came outside with a small paper bag. Hope's old collar inside. The red one. Faded now. We figured you'd want to keep this, Emma said gently. I held it in my hands. Ran my thumb over the rusted tag. It still had her intake number scratched on the back. As if she had once been just that, a number. But not anymore. Not to me. Not to them. Not to the little girl who drew that rainbow picture. Before they left, I kneeled down and whispered into her ear. The same words I used to say when she was scared. Only now, they meant something else entirely. You're safe now, baby girl. You're home. As they drove away, I stood in the parking lot for a long time, holding her collar, watching the car disappear into the golden light. And for the first time since the day she arrived, I felt finished. Not in a way that meant something was over, but in the way that meant something had become. A circle. A full one. Complete. We still get dogs like her. Wounded. Discarded. Unwanted. And every time one comes in, I tell them a story. About a puppy who lived in a box with tape around her ribs. A puppy someone left with a note that said, "Don't want her." A puppy who refused to believe that was the end of her story. And I tell them what happened next. How she found her way to a man who didn't know he needed her. How she limped, then stood, then ran. How she was renamed not out of pity, but out of promise. Hope. And how she lived. Not just once, but again and again. In every soul she touched. Somewhere in the world right now, there's a little girl sleeping peacefully with a German shepherd curled at her feet. She doesn't know how close that dog came to never being loved. She doesn't know the box or the tape or the blood. She only knows what hope has shown her. That love doesn't come with perfect edges. Sometimes it limps. Sometimes it growls. Sometimes it bleeds. But when it stays, it becomes something worth writing about.